Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Man Therapy Podcast. My name is Dan. His name is Kyle. And we are ready to rock today. We're back on a Friday schedule. We hopped on Monday to kind of fill in a gap, make up some time, so we were ahead of ourselves here. And now we're back to this Friday schedule. How was your week, Kyle?
It was good. I had a good week and busy. Felt very busy. Work is really ramping back up because the students are all coming back for college. So my life's getting busy again. People are getting done with their vacations, and when people take vacations, then they don't see me. So, I get like kind of a built-in bit of a downtime during the summer, and now fun and games are over. Time for the semester to start again.
Yeah. And so are a lot of your clients students?
Yeah.
College students? Okay.
Yep. Like definitely not all of them, but I'd say at least a quarter to half of my clients are college students. So yeah,
Okay.
they take a lot of trips in the summer and go home and do all that stuff. So, and then they're, moving and all their little stressors that they have. I shouldn't call them little, just all the stressors that they have. So yeah.
That's an interesting concept to me. Okay. And I think some of this has to do with the conversation that we had, the last conversation that we had, which was about how we have kind of grown and how the definition of man may have changed a little bit and things like that. But I want to unpack a little bit.
Okay.
How hard is it for you as a man, like a real man who has a family, who has a job, who has a mortgage, parents aren't paying for shit. Like you have all this real world experience. And then you have some would argue legally adults, but some would argue they're still just big children.
Yeah.
And their stressors and their concerns. And like for me, hearing someone complain about that, I would be probably, what's the term I would be looking for? Like, I would just almost laugh at their problems. Like, that's not a problem, dude.
Right.
Like, that's not a real problem. But at the time, it could be. You know what I mean? So how do you sit there as a counselor and level the playing field?
Yeah, no, for sure. There's a phrase in counseling which is meet the client where they're at, and I bet it's probably pretty similar to why you don't just laugh in your kids' faces when they when they talk to you about how they got left out of a wiffle ball game or something. Like you could be like, that's not a problem, but you see that it's a problem for them. So I see their problems are as age appropriate and developmentally appropriate. One thing I do have to say is like they don't they don't complain. Like when my clients come in and my college students come in, they're not complaining at all. They're really like they're bumping up against the stuff that's challenging for them now. And I really have to say, like, by and large, they're trying really hard to like grow to overcome it. I actually have a lot of respect for the clients that I meet with. It keeps me humble to see how seriously people are taking their lives. And I think it's neat when people reach out for counseling because I think oftentimes when we keep things to ourselves, we kind of get stuck in the same circular thought patterns. And so we keep coming to the same stuck points in our own mind because we only have access to the thoughts that we happen to have. And then often when we hit the same stuck points and can't go any farther, then we spiral down. And the clients that come to work with me, by and large, want to get out of that cycle. And they're like, hey, like this is a problem. I'm struggling to figure it out, but I know that I can overcome this. I just need like an infusion of new thoughts. And so then we'll work through stuff. And a lot of times we're like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's a good direction. Okay, cool. And then it's neat. Like they put their money where their mouth is and they go out and do the things that we talk about and make the changes, and then things get better. Um, an angle that I never thought about until like right this second is how like a bit of it does feel like parenting, not in a like a protective way, but just in a like a lot of the conversations that any client, even somebody that's older than me, a lot of conversations that any client has with me, I feel like they could have with like one of their parents or a trusted friend. Um, and it's interesting that I think a lot of times people don't go to the good, healthy caring people in their lives. We just keep things to ourselves. So sometimes they do talk to their friends, and there are definitely I definitely have things to offer that the average friend or family member doesn't have to offer. Um, but sometimes I feel like, oh, you haven't talked about this with anyone else. And so part of
Yeah.
what we do in counseling is figure out like, hey, do you have anyone in your life that you respect? Do you have anybody that would be there for you if you reached out to them? And they're like, so often they're like, yeah. And I say, why don't you give them a call? Why don't you run
Yeah.
this by them? Because my, and I think hopefully most counselors, like I'm not trying to be somebody's counselor forever.
Right.
Like I would like at some point for them to like phase me out. Because they feel like I've been replaced. So if they have if a client has like a really good mom or a really good dad that they could talk about this stuff with and they just don't, then I encourage them to go do that and they do, and then they don't need Kyle anymore.
Yeah.
So
This
they're pretty
this
cool.
is a this is a question that I don't think we've talked about yet. And that is, when I have identified that I want to go speak to a counselor,
Mhm.
how do I, quote unquote, shop for a counselor?
Yeah.
How do I know whether that person has the best interest for me? How do I know whether I want a man or a woman? How does a person identify what kind of counselor they need?
I love that question. That's good. Yeah, so if you've never done it before, so you really don't know, to me, the two best ways are, number one would be to like ask around for word of mouth. If there's anybody that you trust or respect to ask, um, wh- who they might recommend to you. I think that's a really good way. I think a lot of people find a good connection with their counselor by somebody else said, "Hey, I think this person would be a good fit for you." Um, the other way that's also awesome is there's a website. It's like an online directory for therapists. It's called Psychology Today. And
Mhm.
basically what you do is you go to this website, Psychology Today, and you search for therapists in your area and you just start reading profiles. So you can sort the therapist by like all sorts of different categories, like, oh, I have this type of insurance. I definitely want like a therapist that has these identities or whatever. So you can filter it by all of those things. And then you
Yeah.
just start reading profiles and looking at pictures, and you might like look at somebody and be like, nope. And you might look at somebody and be like, maybe, and then you read their profile and you're like, nope. But you read the next person's profile and you're like, oh yeah. Like that actually speaks to me. So there might be a few different people that you could see yourself working with, and then you just email them and say, hey, like I'm interested in counseling, what are next steps? And then the therapist, see, it's new to the you being new to counseling, that's new to you, but like you being new to counseling, that's not new to the therapist deals with new people all the time, so the therapist will do a good job of walking you through all of the next steps. And
Yeah.
then you can consider it kind of an interview process. Like if you think that there's a therapist that you might be able to connect with, you go meet with them one time and see what you think. And if you think like, oh, okay, cool, this person's down to earth, they seem to understand me, I think we got along well enough, then you go see him again. And if you see him a couple, 2, 3 times and you're still getting the feel like, yeah, okay, this is cool, then you keep going to him. But if you meet with them a time or two and you're like, I'm just really not feeling this, then you just don't see him anymore and you go to the
Right.
next one. So
Right.
you're looking for a good connection, a good fit. So
Yeah.
there's a difference between somebody that's looking for like a good fit of a counselor versus somebody that's looking for a counselor to tell them what they want to hear. So that's called therapist shopping.
Yeah.
Um, and that happens sometimes because part of what you want in a good therapeutic relationship is you want a counselor that's going to challenge you,
Mhm.
and you want somebody that's going to like call you on your shit.
Yeah.
And you don't want somebody that's just going to always agree with everything that you say and always
Yeah.
take your side and never get you to try to consider what anybody else thinks or feels. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That to me is, as you were kind of explaining this whole thing, it's like I see two sides of the coin there. One, someone going in very vulnerable and not knowing exactly what they want and
Yeah.
just going to someone and then sticking with them just because it's the first person that they see.
Oh, that
And on the
happens.
Yeah. And on the flip side, you have someone who, oh, which is probably even a bigger problem. If someone tells you something and you don't like that, then you don't like the therapist whose problem they're trying to help you fix anyway. And so now you have this giant ego involved that needs to come down before you can really start to make any type of progress.
Dude, that's so true. And you know what's funny, Dan, is like early in my career, if I wasn't making progress, if a client wasn't making progress, I would be so hard on myself. Like, man, I suck. I'm a shitty therapist. They should go to somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like just really down on myself. And the longer I've been doing it full time for 14 and a half years now, and now I've really realized, like, oh, they're in their own place on their own journey. Like,
Hmm.
because I've been in a couple different positions. So the first position is like this client is like not opening up, they're not making progress, things are not clicking, and they end up like leaving, and I feel like we got nowhere, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm an idiot. And then I've also been in the position where a client will come in and they'll be like, hey, I've done counseling before. The last time I did counseling, I really wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to go there. I didn't have the insight. I wasn't ready to hear the things that I needed to hear. So basically, my first counselor didn't stand a chance.
Yeah.
And then from having a few of those, it clicked in my head like, oh, there's a good chance that that's what was going on in those other clients that I met with before. So it's been good for me to be on both sides. So now I'm much less hard on myself for if my clients like don't come back after a few sessions, or if we don't make much progress
Hmm.
right away, because now I know like, oh, everybody's just on their own journey, so I don't
Yeah.
take it personally anymore. That's one of the biggest places of professional growth for me, for sure, is
You'd
taking
have to.
my I don't take my value as a counselor directly from how well my clients are doing anymore. So I don't take credit for their successes,
Yeah.
and I don't take responsibility for when they're not moving forward. I'm just like, hey, I'm here as a tool for you. I basically treat everybody the same. Do with this knowledge what you will, and then I
Yeah.
see what they do with it.
Yeah. As a kind of an insight question here,
Hmm.
and I'm sure you've had these conversations with other counselors, but how hard is it to separate your personal thoughts, beliefs, and values from your professional work when you have somebody come in and say that they are doing something or acting in a certain way that goes against who you are and what you believe in?
Yeah, that's a dude. You're full of bangers today, man. Great question. Yeah. So as far as like keeping my own worldview and bias out of it, obviously I'm never going to be able to do that perfectly. But
Hmm.
the way that I've conceptualized that is that anything that I say to a client, I'd better be able to fucking back up by
Yeah.
research and education.
Yeah.
I am always monitoring in my mind, am I sharing an opinion with this client, or am I sharing like straight up knowledge and education?
Yeah.
So that's my litmus test. Like, can I justify what I'm saying to this client based on something that I learned in all of my educational studies? And
Yeah.
if not, and also a thing I think a part of the reason that I think a lot of my clients like me is that I'm like really straightforward and transparent. I will straight up tell my clients like, "Hey, I have an idea I want to share. This didn't come from a book or anything. This is just like kind of my own personal view on this. So, take it with a grain of salt, but I just want to share a perspective. Would that be okay with you?" And then
Yeah.
they're like, "Yeah." And then I share that perspective. But I try to never cloak my perspective or opinions in my own professional persona.
Hmm.
I don't want them to think that my opinion is something that came from research. So I will, the vast majority of the time, I'm coming from a place of like it's research based, it's from my education, and then anytime that it's not, I let them know that it's not. Another thing, just to complete the thought, um another way that counselors can keep their own stuff out of the therapy room is to have a therapeutic modality that you understand really well and always be operating from that modality. So you should be operating from some therapeutic modality. So you're not just making shit up as you go and flying by the seat of your pants. So, like cognitive behavioral therapy is like a main therapeutic modality. And so like that basically teaches you how to interact with clients. And then there's another one called acceptance and commitment therapy.
Hmm.
And so like anything that you would tell me, I'm thinking about it through the lens of acceptance and commitment therapy, and then I'm responding to you based on that. So and that's all like well researched and well documented and stuff. So those are ways that I can mostly hopefully keep my own personal opinions out of
Yeah.
it. And again,
Yeah.
I'll admit that I'm human, so like I'm sure that
Yeah.
shit creeps in too.
Yeah. Who who's your demographic? Like, is there a group of people that are a majority of what you do?
Yeah, well, I think by mostly the largest group is probably college students, and that's probably 50-50 undergrads and like grad students. I see a lot of grad students. I think
18 to 25 type,
yeah,
18
yeah,
to
definitely, but
26?
really
Yeah.
more like 18 to 30. Like grad
Okay.
students can be anywhere. I mean, grad students can be any age. You could have an 80-year-old grad student, but yeah, mostly 18 to 30. But I also see a ton of university employees that are,
Yeah.
30 to 60 years old. Um, I'm curious what being a male does to my demographic. I think I probably disproportionately see males in my caseload. I think men feel more comfortable talking to a man for therapy.
Mhm.
They don't want to open up to a woman. I think I'm actually the opposite of that. I've done
I think
counseling
I would be
one.
too. I think
Yeah,
I
I've
would
done
wanna talk
counseling
with a
once
female.
before. Yeah, say more.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like and that might be part of the problem, right? If I was to ever maybe I, because I feel like a woman would be more nurturing,
Mhm.
a woman might potentially be more caring,
Mhm.
a woman might show more love
Mhm.
instead of cold, hard truth, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I that's what I envision
Yeah.
as a therapist, which kinda leads me to the next question is like, have you ever had to take kind of a shock and awe tactic to
Hmm.
where you're like, "Wake up! Wake up!" And
Hmm.
just be like, "Dude, wake up. You are living in a fantasy world, my friend. Wake up." Like, and then that shocks them and they're like, "Oh, maybe you're right." Like, is that a
Yeah,
method? Is that hard?
maybe I wouldn't rule that out. I would say maybe not to that extent, but I will say I will definitely get more passionate when the situation calls for it.
Right.
And there are some times when like I think to your point that like playing nice doesn't work and it
Yeah.
and it isn't the thing, and just being like the nice calm sensitive counselor, like that really just helps the client not have to go there. And
Yeah.
so yeah, sometimes I do have to get really pointed with them, and sometimes I have to be their energy when they can't have it, and sometimes I have to be their drive when they can't summon that drive, and sometimes I have to challenge them in important ways, and sometimes no one else will challenge them. Another thing about being a counselor is like I'm friendly, but I'm not your friend,
Mhm.
and I think you're paying me to be straightforward with you. And so there are times when I have to tell people hard truths, and
Yeah.
that's a thing that I desperately hope that other counselors are doing. And I have a sense and a fear that some are and some aren't, and it makes me sad to think of the counselors that aren't being straightforward because they want their clients to like them, or they're afraid of driving their clients away, or things like that. But I will I I'm a very genuine person, so I make genuine relationships with all of my clients. And then I will also like leverage that goodwill to say, "Hey, I have a thought that I want to share with you, and I don't think you're gonna like it.
Yeah.
Can I share my thought?" And they always say yes to that, and then I do, and they can hear it from me because I'm not an asshole, and I've put in the
Yeah.
work to like demonstrate that I'm a that I'm worthy of their respect. Yeah.
Yeah. Is is it you hop on the call. I'm sure you get some kind of information before the call happens. Um, and this is just out of my own curiosity. Are
Yeah,
are a
yeah.
majority of your clients white,
Are the majority of my clients white? Ye
Caucasian, white?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, they definitely are. I I wonder what the percentage is because I do see quite a few folks of color and um varying sexual orientations, and like a big theme on my caseload right now is like polyamory. Um
like
that
pottery,
what's that?
pottery.
Polyamory. So somebody that's like has multiple partners at the same time.
Mm,
Yeah. So
okay.
that's been an interesting thing that's like really grown, but
You mean
I
like,
think
and they all know about each other?
yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes they're all like in a group where they're all kind of dating each other.
Oh,
Yeah. So
okay.
sometimes it's like a husband and a wife, and like one of them is like, "Hey, what do you think about the idea of like including someone else?" Or sometimes they want to include someone else just sexually, but sometimes they're like, "Hey, like we're cool and everything, but like there's other like parts of my personality I would like to explore. Like, would you care if I also saw other people?" And so one of the partners will start dating someone else. Or maybe they'll both make an agreement that they can each start, excuse me, dating or seeing someone else. And so they will. And then they'll develop their own rules and structure around it. Sometimes they're just like, yeah, cool, go do whatever you want. And other times they're like, yeah, do whatever you want, just don't tell me about it. And sometimes they're like, do whatever you want, but you have to tell me everything about it. Or sometimes they're like, yeah, you can see someone else, but only if I'm also seeing someone else. Because if you're seeing someone else and I'm not, then I'll be jealous.
Yeah.
And so they figure out what rules are right for them, and then they do it. So that's been an interesting one that's been on my caseload a lot more in the past
Interesting.
couple years than ever
I couldn't
before.
be a counselor. Dude, I just couldn't do it. I could not do it. I
Yeah. No,
I
I hear
couldn't
you,
do it.
man.
I would
Well,
have to just
I
be like,
shouldn't assume. I guess I'm making an assumption in my mind. Say more. Like
no,
why do you think you couldn't do
I
it?
think you know what I'm about to say,
I
right?
just
Like,
making assumptions.
hey, you're in counseling because you're having these emotions about your husband or your wife or your partner going out with another person. No shit, right? That's what I would say. No shit, Sherlock. But
Right.
but again, that's probably insensitive, and that's probably right. You couldn't do that. You
No,
couldn't do that.
right.
Like, oh, you don't want any problems? Don't see other people, right?
Right.
Just
Right.
be committed
Well,
in a one-on-one relationship. But that's
yeah.
not how the world turns, my friend. So,
Right. No,
yep.
the thing that you do in counseling is you ex you try not to make assumptions, but, I'm human too, so
Mm,
I do jump to conclusions in my mind, but I have to be self-monitoring to not just assume that's the case.
yeah,
And I'll say, Dan, there's been times when I've been surprised that the thing that I would assume would be bothering somebody wasn't what was actually bothering them.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so me sticking with it to like learn about what was actually bothering them ended up being beneficial rather than me just jumping to the conclusion of my
right,
assumption.
right.
So that it's
So,
actually really fucking fun, dude. It's super fun to not know truly what someone's going to say.
yeah,
And so like to just dig in with them and learn about what really bothers them and what makes them tick and what experiences they had and how those experiences affected them.
yeah.
Dude, so many people's stories have taken so many left turns that I could not have possibly guessed at. It's just like it's so interesting every day.
I don't know. I don't. Have you ever had like a wife and a husband on, or a wife on who's just like, hey, listen, my husband plays too much Magic in the Gathering,
Mm.
Magic the Gathering, or whatever that is, and I'm starting to feel a certain way. Like, have you ever had a specific Magic the Gathering plot twist?
No, not specifically
Okay,
Magic the
okay,
Gathering,
all right,
no. I've
all right.
definitely had like, oh, my partner plays too many video games and stuff like
Oh
that,
yeah,
but no,
right.
not oh, yeah, where does Magic Gathering have a special meaning in your life, Dan?
No, it doesn't. I just, for some reason, feel like Magic the Gathering would, I don't, like, would be a huge, like, I don't know how, sometimes people get married and maybe the husband plays too much golf or the husband watches too much football or the husband
Yeah.
like he's done this his whole life. You get married and then a woman expects him to change now that they're
Yeah.
married, but he still loves fantasy football and doing
Yeah.
this. And I don't know why, but I think there is a subculture of people who love
Has to
Magic
be.
the Gathering and they
Yeah.
don't want to change, but their wives want them to change or
Has
vice
to be.
versa. There has
Has
to
to
be.
be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, has to be. I also then wonder, like, like, say that a guy has a hobby of Magic the Gathering, I
Yeah.
kind of wonder if he'd be this is my bias coming out. Makes me wonder if he would be more likely to, like, marry a woman that's also into, like,
Magic the
gaming
Gathering.
and, that, like, yeah,
Role
gaming.
play.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
those sorts of fantasy games, whereas there are definitely women that are into sports, but I think it's, I don't know, feels more likely that it'd be easier to match with somebody that was, like, into like those kind of fantasy games than it would be to find a woman that's like into sports. I don't know.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
That's a funny thought though, that like, yeah, like a guy would have to give up, just kind of a classic scenario of a guy having to give up whatever the thing is that he's
Yeah.
like way into because she was totally cool with it while they were dating. But as soon as
Yeah.
they get married, she's like, all right, you spend too much time doing that. And he's like, what?
What?
You've known
What?
me. You knew exactly who I was. And
Yep.
when you wanted to marry me, and now that we're married, you're saying I need to do that less?
Yeah. So dude, and I am sure that there are in this world there are therapists that specialize in a specific thing, right?
Mhm.
So like marriage counselors or
Yeah, for
addiction
sure.
or whatever, and like you could be the first Magic the Gathering special, therapist.
Dude, I should start studying up. You're right. I bet
Yeah.
that's an untapped vein. Yeah,
You love
I
dirt
should.
bikes. You could be the first
Yeah.
dirt bike therapist.
Yeah, I should put that in my profile. See
Yeah.
how many people it attracts. I could go put up signs at the local track.
Yeah. Need to talk. Need to
Yeah,
wrench and talk. That's a
yeah,
podcast. Wrenching and
yeah.
talking.
That's a good idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
just meet me in my garage. We'll just light the garage and have mics.
Yep. There you
Yeah,
go.
that's a good idea.
When you have a guy pop up somewhere between, you're saying a majority of your clientele is between 18 to 30.
Mhm.
I'm interested this 18 to 25 still in college or
Mhm.
in that age group. They come are my guess is that I don't want to assume, but I want to guess like, okay, if it's a white male from 18 to 25, I can almost guarantee you that he's going to talk about this and this, and I have a solution for those. It's a textbook solution that you can pull up. Yeah, you still listen, but you're already like, oh, dude, I'm so stressed with school, blah blah blah. All right, here's what you do. Boom, boom, boom. Next one, hey, I tried that. It was awesome. It worked. Boom, boom, boom. And then it's batter up, home run.
Right. Right. There definitely is some of that's been earned by years of experience.
Yep.
So it's not as much like just assumption that this client will be this way, but it's like after 14 years of, and I worked at the University Counseling Service at the University of Iowa for 7 years. Like you did hear the same presenting concerns over and
Right.
over and over and over and over and over. And I actually never got bored with that. I think the repetitions, to your point, made me good at
Right.
managing those presenting concerns. And I have to be, and I would guess the average therapist has to be careful about like ego stroking and getting too like full of themselves because I'll have to admit, like, it was a good feeling if I'd be working with a freshman or sophomore in college and they're talking about the how hard college is compared to high school and they're struggling to figure out how to study and stuff. And then it's like, oh, I've been doing this for the past 7 years. So
Right.
I've got 7 years of experience for what I told clients, how I told it to them, how they received it, how they implemented it, what worked and what didn't work, and then how we revised that. So like then when I share this knowledge with these clients, they're like, whoa,
Yeah.
yeah, that's incredible. You're so awesome. You're so smart. And then I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
and I have to go, oh,
Yeah.
careful, Kyle.
Yeah.
careful, like, because I need to be careful to not, like, feed into the, like,
Pigeonhole
they think
somebody
I'm
into a
awesome.
pigeonhole a demographic into a certain problem, and then
Mhm.
and then you find
Yeah.
yourself not treating the individual, you're treating the
Yeah.
symptom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's
Yep.
absolutely right, and one of the biggest lessons that I've learned there where that I was irritated with myself that it took me so long was, like, uh, making assumptions, and so I'd skip over like, if I thought somebody was, like, pretty sharp, pretty smart, and, like, pretty mature, I would make this assumption that we could kinda skip to the more technical stuff,
Mhm.
and I would skip over, like, the basics and the building blocks, and
Yep.
then things would not be getting better, and then they'd be frustrated with themselves because things aren't getting better, and I'd be frustrated because 'cause I'm like, "What the hell's going on here?" And then I realized, like, "Oh, dude, I skipped over the absolute basics of, like,
Yeah.
the basic education and teaching them like the basic breathing skills and like all the basics sometimes would skip over if I thought the client was like more advanced because I
Yeah.
would get excited. That's another thing I have to be careful about is that's like it's fun about this podcast because we can go wherever we want, talk about whatever we want. In
Yeah.
counseling, I have to be careful to not get carried away and talk about what I'm interested in. I
Yeah.
have to talk about what's going to be best for the client. And so
Yeah.
sometimes I'm tempted to go on a rant or a side quest, and sometimes I do go on those, and I'll have to catch myself and bring myself back.
Yeah. How much of what you do is people feeling sorry for themselves?
How much of what I do is people feeling sorry for themselves? I would say a very small percentage.
Okay.
I think what I see way more than people feeling sorry for themselves is people being really frustrated with themselves because they hold themselves to impossible standards or unrelenting standards or
Mhm.
they're assessing themselves based on someone else's standards that they couldn't possibly live up to. Yeah, it's actually like, I hear very little like whining and complaining and like I hear very little like what a average guy might call like weakness.
Mhm.
Really it tends to be a lot more of people wanting to do well and be good at things but like they're just so hard on themselves and so then
Mhm.
that gets in their own way and
Yeah.
oftentimes not always but oftentimes it comes from their parents like having unrelenting standards for their kids. What
Yeah.
dude, one thing that makes me so sad and so frustrated to see, and I've seen this so many times over the years, is like I'll have this if I say kids, like they're not kids, so it's this young adult that's who knows, 18 to 25, and they're plenty smart, they're plenty capable, and they just feel like total shit about themselves because their their parents micromanage every aspect of their life, don't give them any opportunities to grow or be challenged or figure anything out for themselves, and then their parent just dogs on them
Mhm.
for everything they do. So there's such a classic thing as the parent will be like, "Hey, you really need to step up and do something with your life." And then the young adult's like, "Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go do this." And the parent goes, "Oh, no, 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 not like that.
Yeah.
Not that, don't do that."
Yeah.
And the kid's like, "Oh," and the kid's like, "Okay, yeah, but I really need to do something with my life." And the kid says, "All right, I'm gonna go do this." And the parent goes, "Oh, no, 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 not that." And so the parent just fucking sabotages the kid. And,
Yeah.
and so this kid that's like totally smart, totally capable, just thinks they think they're incompetent and they think they're a loser. And it's like, dude, if you weren't in that family system, you would be thriving.
Mhm.
I've had quite a few clients like that over the years.
Yeah.
Whereas I can just see it, and it's like it's a parental need almost to have their kids be lost because then they can be like judgmental of them. And
Yeah.
it comes from the parents. Like that's why as parents we need to figure our shit out so that we don't dump it on our kids. And nobody ever does that perfectly. I don't think. I'm sure I don't do it perfectly, but man, some people do it way worse than others. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so I want to pop something up real quick, and this is kind of a hard pivot here.
Okay.
Um, I uh Um, I am reading a couple reviews that we've got out of on our podcast. And here is one review, and I don't know why I'm reading this. I just, for some reason, it popped into my head. I pulled it up, and here it is. I'm in sales, so I drive long hours and listen to podcasts. This one has been incredible because the guys are so relatable and the topics are very real. I take something away with me after every one. It's been a must listen each week, and I appreciate the honesty and vulnerability of Dan with the professionalism of Kyle in their discussions. Keep it
Oh,
up, and I have recommended it to multiple people already.
oh, super nice.
And so I don't even know who this guy is. So probably, I don't,
Well,
so
thank you to whoever that is.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
this dude, thank you very
you're
much for
welcome.
leaving the review. There's been
Yeah.
multiple 5-star reviews. We're still in the infancy stage.
Mhm.
Here's another one. This podcast is a perfect mix of professionalism and guys just being guys. Very relatable, and I look forward to more episodes.
Mhm.
I'll take it, dude.
Yeah,
That's a
right?
little
Love
that's
it.
a little ego boost, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good kind of ego boost. I think, like,
Yeah.
for this, what's super cool about this podcast is it's just a space for us to do whatever the fuck we want, and I really like that. You know? So, like, I don't like
Right.
I'm not worried about us getting too in our heads here. We can do whatever we want here.
Right.
In counseling, I always have to, like, temper my
Right.
own excitement and stuff. Here, I can just go with the flow.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
Boom, boom. Yep.
I'll
Yep.
be a little vulnerable about how I feel about my career. Like, I love what I do, and I really like and respect my clients. And I will also say that counseling is like, it's generally speaking, counseling can be a pretty lonely occupation
Yeah.
because when you're meeting with clients, you have to be focused on them and their lives. And that's absolutely true, and
Yeah.
that's how it should be, and I wouldn't change that at all. It's
Yeah.
just that we're not just having a conversation, and I don't get to share what I think is interesting, and my brain wants to go a bunch of other directions, or maybe it sparks a funny story that I would love to tell, or maybe I think of a joke that I would love to tell that if I'm just like shooting the shit with my friend I would tell. But in
Yeah.
counseling, I just stuff all that down. Anytime a funny story comes up, I don't say, "Oh, let me tell you a funny story," because
Yeah.
they're paying for that time.
Exactly.
They're not gonna spend 5 minutes of their time listening to, like, a funny story that happened to get sparked in my mind. Or
Right.
not that I never make jokes, but the average joke that I think of isn't going to be helpful
Right.
in a counseling session, so I just don't. So,
Yeah.
like, a lot of my clients are super cool and, like, super friendly, and we get along really well. But I also have to, like, it is a little rough that those relationships are pretty one-sided, you
Yeah.
know? And then
Yeah.
another funny thing that, I bet people would be interested to know, that some people have thought about and some haven't, that it's it's actually, it can be a bit of a bummer when there's, like, when you meet a client that you, like, really, really like and really connect with, and what
Mhm.
that means is you can never be friends with them. So,
Yeah.
like, across the course of my career, I've met people that, like, even in the first session, I'm like, "Oh, man, you're cool as fuck.
Yeah.
We would be awesome friends outside of here." And I meet with those clients. I have a number of those clients on my caseload right now. They're awesome people. But, like, what that means is, oh, since we met each other in this capacity, we can never be, like, friends in life. And
Yeah.
so that can feel a little rough. Like, if you meet
Even
somebody through the hunting community or through your
yeah.
podcast, you can be friends with them.
Yeah.
You can make personal friends with them and text them whenever you want, call them whenever you want, go hang out, all that stuff. When I meet awesome people that I really like, I can't be friends with them. I can't text them. I can't hang out
Yeah.
with them. That's a
Even if
weird thing.
so what happens in a scenario where let's say you have a client, okay? And you are done be like they're done with you. They
Mhm.
feel like they've improved. Give them the green light. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good luck. Good
Yeah,
luck. Go your separate ways. Couple months later, you're out in public and you run into them and they're like, dude, I'm having a cookout. You want to come over, bring your family, whatever. And it's a
right.
no-go.
That's right. It's a no-go. and it sucks.
Really? So
Yo, yeah, dude.
even afterwards,
Yeah, yeah.
why is that?
Yeah. So it's an ethical consideration. The expression is once a client, always a client.
Mm,
And the thing is, you want to keep your relationships the cleanest you
yeah,
possibly can.
yeah.
Because here's the thing. Let's say that to use, I love the scenario you just laid out because that could totally happen. Um, the thing is, like, when you have, it's called a dual relationship if you know somebody in two different capacities. And in counseling, that's really tricky to have a dual relationship because let's say, Dan, that you and I work together for like 2 years, and I know a
Hmm.
lot about you, and I know a lot
Yeah,
about your life and your family, and like, maybe this isn't true, internet, but let's say that Dan like really disliked his mother-in-law, and let's say he just like unloaded about his mother-in-law to me in counseling for 2 years, and it's like, oh, hey, Kyle, you should come over for a cookout and bring your family. And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, that's super cool. I would love to do that. So I do. And guess who's there? Dan's
yeah,
mother-in-law. And
yeah.
then I know all this shit about her. No one else knows that I know that. I have like a bad taste in my mouth for this person. How am I supposed to interact with her? Let's say that I'm having a conversation with Dan's cousin or friend at this cookout. I'm supposed to somehow be able to like remember what Dan told me in privacy versus like what's okay to talk about in public. And what if I let something slip?
Hmm.
What if I accidentally say in conversation
You have a couple
something that,
margaritas, and
yeah,
next
I
thing
have
you
a
know,
couple of margs. Yeah, yeah, I have a couple IPAs. I have less of those now that I'm old because it destroys my stomach. But yeah,
yep.
let's say that I get a little loose or even completely sober, just happen to like
Hmm.
accidentally let something slip that I forgot that you told me in confidence, and I break your confidentiality. And the funny thing is with these ethical dilemmas is no one ever thinks it will happen.
And then it does.
And then it does. And
Yep.
it does. And it does happen too. And that's like people get burned. And there's actually like online you can see a list of the counselors that have gotten in trouble. They post
Yeah,
it, in public. And so that's why you just have to keep everything separate, and it does suck. And so the way that I deal with seeing clients in public, and I tell them this when we meet, like, hey, if we see each other outside of here, just know that I'm not going to say hi to you. I'm going to pretend like I don't know you. The
yeah,
ball's going to be in your court. I said I will match your energy. I said if you say hi to me, I'll be very happy to say hi to you. If you want to have a brief conversation, I'll be very happy to do that. If you yell my name down the corridor at the grocery store and wave at me like a lunatic, I'll match your energy. I'll do that
yeah,
too. But
yep.
I'm not going to initiate because what if you're with someone that doesn't know you're in counseling and I walk up to you and say, "Hey Dan, how are you?" And then the
Hmm.
person that you're with is like, "Who's that?" And now I've outed you. Or now I've
Oh
put
yeah,
you in a position that you have to like explain who I am.
yeah,
So that's why I can't I
yeah,
don't I can't approach someone. It has to be the ball has to be in the client's court all the time.
yeah, yeah. For the record, Kyle,
Mhm.
my mother-in-law is an angel. I love her to
There you go.
death.
Good.
She is an amazing human being,
She's a
right?
sweetheart. That's good.
She's a great grandmother. She's a
Uh-huh.
great mother-in-law,
Uh-huh.
and she's one of those people who truly puts other people first.
Dude, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Dude, how this is also a bit of a pivot, and we don't have to go down this path long if you don't want to, but dude, how much of a fucking blessing is it to have good in-laws?
Oh yeah, dude.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
it's
In-
incredible. Though, dude,
Incredible.
that's a thing that comes up in counseling all the time is like the partner's family and how shitty they are and like how much stress it brings to a person's life. And that's one thing from like the very first second of meeting my wife and her family. I was like, oh my God, all of these people are awesome.
Yep.
I can't even believe how awesome her family is. And like she has tons of different like parts of her family because her parents are divorced and her mom's been married multiple times and
Yep.
all these things. And like, dude, every single part of the family It's just full of sweethearts.
Yep.
Everybody is super nice, super kind,
Yep.
super generous, puts everybody else first. It's like I hit the jackpot of in-laws, and it sounds like
Yeah.
you did too.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's
Father-in-law is an
awesome.
excellent person. Truly blessed to have those two in my life and have caring individuals who want to be involved with the grandkids. Like they
Yeah.
want to be, right? And
Yeah, isn't
so
that nice?
that's amazing. Can I
Yeah.
tell you a funny story about the first time I ever met my well, it wasn't the first time I ever met her, but it was the first time I ever stayed at my in-laws' house before we were married. Um Me and my wife were going back to her town, and we stayed in their house. And um, we're sitting. Her mother, my wife's my mother-in-law, went to bed before everybody else, and we were watching a football game or something like that. And all of a sudden, I start hearing these weird noises from the back bedroom, and it's like, "Ah, ah, help me!" And
Oh
I'm like, and
gosh.
I perk up and I'm looking around, and my father-in-law and my wife are ignoring this. Like, I'm like, can you hear this? But they're ignoring. They're just like, they're acting like it's not happening. And
Mhm.
I'm looking around and help me, help me. And I'm like, what is going on here? And I go, you guys, what is there something wrong? What's going? Oh, no, 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 don't worry about it. She has night terrors. So so I'm here freaking out. And for a
Oh
while there,
man.
like, yeah, so for like every once in a while, her mom will have these night terrors while we are in the whenever we like spend the night over at their house, or
Oh,
if
that's
she
sad.
spends the night at our house.
Yeah.
And so I wake up and I'm like, what is going on? And then I have to remember, okay, it's night terrors.
Oh,
But I hope there's never like a scenario where there's like an actual intruder in the house,
yeah.
and where
Yeah.
the boy who cries wolf scenario type of happens, like, oh
Yeah, no
yeah,
kidding.
don't worry about it, don't worry about it. Meanwhile, she's
Right.
actually getting abducted.
Yeah. He's stabbing me. Like, no, she's
Being
fine.
very specific, like, he's wearing a red mask,
Yeah.
help me.
Like, no, don't worry, but don't even go back there. Like, God, it sounds like a lot of commotion. No,
Yeah.
she tosses and turns a lot. Don't
Yeah,
worry
why is
about
the
her.
window being open and shut and there's broken glass and just don't worry about it, don't
I
worry. I
told you,
love it.
don't worry. She gets it all the time. Oh man. That's hilarious.
That's my first encounter at my wife's childhood home. So that was kind of
Yeah. Oh,
that's a story that gets brought up every year at some point.
oh,
So
for sure. That's a
yeah,
funny story. You gotta keep that alive.
I want to end this conversation today because I feel like this has been a really good conversation. Um, I want to end this conversation with a little bit of what would Kyle do,
Mm, mm,
and that is there are times throughout the day, the week, the month, the year where we as human beings have reached our capacity for stress or the quote unquote man deliverables, whether that's fathering, whether that's husband, whether that is brother, you name all these labels that men have, and their cup is full and they are overwhelmed because they are not being able to deliver on all the things that they want to.
mm,
What are some things that we should be considering when we hit
mm.
this threshold?
Yeah. Man, I'm a firm believer that you only have to give what you have to give. I think that if you give a shit as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a brother, all the things, I think you're always giving 100%. And I think your
Yeah.
100% just looks different every day. And I think you got to give yourself permission for that to be true. And
Yep.
so, like if I'm like got great sleep and like there's no stressors in my life and I'm well hydrated and caffeinated and fed, dude, I've got all the energy in the world and I'm giving 100%, firing on all cylinders. That's going to look very different from like, oh my God, like both my kids wet their beds last night and they were up in the middle of the night and they woke my wife and I up and then they couldn't go back to sleep. So we're dead tired. And then it was
Hmm.
like a huge pain in the ass hassle to get them out the door this morning. And like, I've got this, I feel like I've got a cold coming on. I'm like, oh, I feel really groggy and shitty, but I'm still going to give everything I have. But
Yeah.
those are going to be two very different presentations of Kyle. Right? So I think, like, we're always trying to give our best. We're always trying to give 100%, and that's always gonna look different. I think you have to think in terms of, like, I need to do whatever I need to do for myself so that I can continue to show up. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to admit, like, "Wow, I'm wiped out. I need to just, like I need a little bit of recovery time here."
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any shame in that. I think that's tactical.
Yeah.
I would see that as a tactical move rather than, like, you're not tucking your
A
tail.
weakness. Yeah.
It's not weakness, it's tactical, you know?
Right.
So I would encourage men to see it as being tactical, to recognize when you're at your wit's end and there's nothing, you don't have much more to give, to go get help, to seek another perspective, or to, like, give yourself time to rest. Um, also, that being said, there are some things that you'll just never give yourself permission to stop doing. Like, no matter how crappy I feel, if one of my kids needs something, I just have to drag my ass up and do it. you
Yeah.
know? My wife and I were, like, really sick with COVID, the first time when COVID was happening, and we didn't know what it was. We didn't know what we had yet, and we were, like, super super sick, and that didn't stop us from being parents. It's like, "Uh, you go, no, you go. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna go. Oh, here I go." And then you get up and you get him a glass of milk or
Yeah.
whatever. And
Right.
it took all the strength you had to get up, get your kid a glass of milk, and then collapse back into bed. So there are some things that you're just gonna have to summon energy you didn't think you had to go
Right.
do a thing. But yeah, otherwise, I don't know if you need to be more specific about certain scenarios, but sometimes for scenarios that feel like, geez, this has been going on for months or years, or I've tried everything that I can do to do this, and I just am burned out, and I feel hopeless, and I feel helpless. I have a number of thoughts about that. If things are, like, really, really toxic in the relationship, then leaving is an option. But if that's not the option, then um, I think it's a great idea to go talk to someone else. Just like, I don't see it as a weakness to, like, say, go to counseling, but it doesn't have to be counseling. It's interchange counseling for talking to a mentor, talking to a close friend that you respect, talking to anybody
Yeah.
that you respect their opinion. Because, Dan, what happens is when we are grinding on a problem or an issue that we have, and we just keep it in our own heads, we keep it. The longer that we do, we exhaust the thoughts that we happen to have. And dude, I've met with so many clients that have been like, I don't see how counseling could possibly help me. I've been thinking about this for years. I've already thought of everything. Nothing's going to work. And I'm like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
fair. Let's just tell me what you've thought about. And then they'll say that they'll have a lot. They'll tell me their years worth of thoughts about the thing. And then I'm like, oh, okay. Well, what about this? And they're
Right.
like, fuck, never thought of that. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. We have different brains, you know?
Right.
Like, go and that another reason why, a counselor or somebody that you would respect in whatever area of life, like, this is maybe the first time that you've gone through this major issue in your life, but that counselor might have already helped 50 people get through that. So the counselor would have access to 50 people, 100 people's experience from start to finish, to see what they did and what worked and what didn't work and what
Right.
trends there were. And that counselor's already experienced a whole bunch of the curveballs that life could throw at a person. And you might be really
Right.
surprised. And again, I always say it doesn't have to be a counselor. It could be anybody that you trust and respect. But
Yeah.
you never know if talking to somebody else might spark a new thought in you that will now give you a new direction that you can start exploring when you felt really, really helpless before.
Right. Right.
So opening up to somebody, and you know what, dude, if you're not going to open up to somebody, but you have like some major thing that's weighing on your mind or your heart or your shoulders, and it's been years and it's so stressful and you think it's hopeless, start journaling, write
Yeah.
about it, write about
Yeah.
the same topic every day for 20 minutes for 4 days in a row. And you might be really surprised that you might start having some new thoughts and insights about it because
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, man, I know this from experience for myself, and I know it from experience working with clients. If you journal, you will, like, all of your thoughts that you've had for years have filled up your head, taken up
Right.
all your head space. If you can write it all down, it's like taking it from here and putting it on paper or in a Word document or whatever, and it clears up a bunch of headspace. And then guess
Right.
what? New thoughts start flowing in. And you're like, oh shit, I never thought of that before. It's like, yeah, that's right. Because if you're juggling 15 balls, that's really hard. But if you put all the 15 balls down, you can really sit and look at them. And it's the same
Right.
15 balls, but like trying to keep your thoughts alive in your head for years takes a lot of energy. But if you can sit them all down and look at them, you might have a different insight about them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
journaling, go journal. If you don't want to call it journaling, just call it writing, call it a brain dump, whatever. But you need to look at your thoughts a different way. And if you've
Yeah.
just been keeping your thoughts in your head, then you've probably been looking at them the same way for years. And you need a
Yeah.
different perspective.
Yeah.
I know I just got like super preachy and finger waggy there probably, but I get
No,
passionate about
it's
that.
the right answer. I mean, I like it. I had a I had a scenario where I was overwhelmed. Well, every day really, but last year was it last? It would have been not this summer, but towards the end of last summer. There was a thing in my life that was happening. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it involved my family and it involved other families. And
Mm,
was, I took it, um, when I take something very important, there's a term or a word, like I
mm.
cared a lot about the outcome of whatever this situation was. And it
Okay.
was extremely stressful for not only
Yeah.
myself, but for a lot of other families.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't do a good enough job of explaining to people. And I felt like I personally was carrying a lot of the weight, and people were upset at me. And
Mm,
a lot of these things were happening. But my main intention was the benefit of other people. Okay.
right.
And I don't know if I necessarily did a good job of explaining that, whatever. And so one day I was very overwhelmed and I went on a walk,
Yeah.
right? I just went on a walk, right?
Love
And
it.
I thought
Love
that
it.
was helping. and, and
Uh-huh.
then we have a local coffee shop in town. And I walk in there, I get a coffee, I sat down, and dude, I had a breakdown at our coffee shop in town.
Mm,
And
mm.
luckily, I had a very kind person who works there come up to me and just talk to me about it for 20, 30 minutes.
Nice.
And so I don't know if I didn't do enough to get some of that stuff off my chest. I literally held on to everything
Yeah.
until I had a
Yeah.
breakdown.
Yeah.
And then luckily when I did have that breakdown, I had a very caring person there to help me through
Absolutely.
that. But I mean, shit,
Absolutely.
dude, I was a 42-year-old man crying in a
Yeah.
public place.
Yeah.
Like it was embarrassing. And
I hear you.
so, and then of course there's the man card, right? My man card was fractured
Yeah.
because I'm a grown man crying in public. And I'm just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I felt like I let a lot of people down. And I hit a
Mhm.
point where it was just the boiler exploded, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
so
Uh-huh.
I'm in my life. I don't want that stuff to happen. Like I don't want to ever reach that point. I want to take care of
Yeah.
all of this stuff before I hit that
Yes.
point. And so for like
Yes.
me, one thing that I have kind of realized is that my balance is off in life
Mm.
for like I love coaching my kids, right?
Mhm.
So this fall um, I'm coaching 2 flag football teams. That means I'm doing something every day, except Fridays. But then I have football games on Tuesday. I have a baseball games on Saturday that my son will attend, and then we have
Yeah.
football games on Sunday. All right.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
that, then my business, then my house, and there's this bucket that I have of my carrying capacity is getting fuller and fuller, and I'm noticing that I am putting a lot of weight into the things that I like to do and that are fun to me, and I'm neglecting things that keep the momentum moving forward of the family, whether that is, and really what it is my job, my business. I am like, I need to put more time into my business, but dude, I love my kids and I love my family. And when my
Yeah.
kids ask, hey, dad, I want to go on a golf cart ride or I want to go play catch, I don't
Yeah.
ever want to say no to that.
Right.
But
Right. That's the good stuff.
I feel like I need to be honest with you.
Mm. You've expressed some of this before,
Yeah.
and you've expressed to me that, like, that's especially your mentality during
Yeah.
the summer. This is
Right.
especially hard during the summer because
Right.
your kids are around and you guys don't put them in daycare, which I think
Right.
is awesome.
Yep.
But it also, like, it has an impact because then your kids are
Yep.
around all the time, and so you do get all of that time. And you've basically expressed to me that, like, in the summertime, you allow yourself to do a lot more of that. I could see it being way harder to focus on
Right.
work. How do you think that's gonna shift for you when school starts on Monday?
Yeah.
Will it
That's,
be easier for you to get back to work and be like, "All right, my kids are gone from this time to this time.
yeah.
I'd better, like, put the hammer down
It's
and"
gas pedal time. Yeah,
Yeah,
really,
good.
really what I do is I'm able to shed that. I'm able to shed my kids, and I don't want to say pass them off, but that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm
Yeah,
getting rid of them, and
here
now
you
I
go, school.
have from the time that they leave to the time that they get home
Yeah,
is full throttle business. I got to find more time to work out,
yeah,
and do those types of things, and then
darn right.
after that, coaching, back home and then finish
Yeah,
up what I don't have that stuff. But it's
love
gonna
it.
it's a good thing for me that the kids are going back to school.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good thing for your business
Yeah, exactly.
that they are. Yeah,
Yep.
so do you think you're gonna be able to make that shift? Like, once it happens, are you, like, you're kinda
Instantly.
itching, you're ready to do it?
Yeah. I'm ready to
Good,
go. I'm
good.
ready to like hop in the Ferrari and ski,
Yeah.
you know.
Good, good. Well,
Yeah.
I'm happy for you then,
Yeah.
and you know what? There's lots of ways to live life, and if you're making ends meet, then I think it's super fucking awesome that you get to spend so much time with your kids.
Yeah. But in a roundabout way here, I would say that the pressure that I'm putting on myself is worth it in the long run. That's
Mhm.
knowing that my kids are gonna be gone out of like, and not like, my daughter is knocking on 13 now,
Right.
teenager, and she's going to be doing some stuff that won't include daddy anymore. You know what I mean? And
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
same with the kids, uh,
Yeah.
as they start to get older. So I wanna be there until I don't need to be there, if that makes sense. So,
Dude,
and so I'm putting
have the
that
same
pressure.
mentality.
Yeah, I'm putting that pressure on myself now,
Yeah.
and I'm doing it because I wanna do it,
Oh, yeah.
right? But I'm feeling the pressure, and I have the thoughts of regret pop in like, "Dude, I know I could be making more money. I know
Yeah.
I could be growing my business, but I
Yeah.
am deciding to do the family stuff instead of everything else."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oh,
it's
I'm so with you. I think
yeah,
you've ordered your priorities correctly according to my value system,
yeah.
and, you said something important, was like, "I could be making more money." To that point, you can always make more money. You can't always make more time with your kids as a 12-year-old.
That's what I needed to hear, Kyle.
Once 12-year-old daughter is gone, she's gone.
Yep, yep,
Once 7-year-old son is gone, he's gone.
yeah,
You will never get a single moment of their childhood back.
yep,
It's such a finite time, and so I think
yep,
it's badass that you would say, "I'm making ends meet. I have enough money to put them in all this shit,
yep,
and that I get to be involved with them too." Dude, I think wring every fucking drop out of the chamois of their childhoods,
yeah,
not in a needy way that you need it,
yep.
but just enjoy it is what I mean.
Hell yeah,
Savor it.
man.
I'm
Hell
with
yeah,
you.
dude.
That's awesome. And then once they go back to school on Monday, see ya. And then you
Yeah.
just nose to the grindstone. Yeah.
See ya.
See ya. Yeah, dude. I mean, it's similar for me. Like once my kids go back to school, that now alleviates pressure to like come home early.
Mhm. Yep.
Like it is a thought of mine during the summer. If I know my kids are at home and it's like, man, I could take this client at like 3 or 4, which would mean I get done at like 4 or 5. And it's like, oh, but my kids are home and my wife's kind of like tapped out because she's had them all
Yeah.
day, every day for a few days. And I'm like, oh, I'd better not take that client. But once they go to school, it's like, dude, I may as
Right.
well just load up. I may as well just load up my caseload all day.
Yep.
Let me see as many clients as I can while my
Yep.
kids are at school because it doesn't negatively affect my family. So I'm with you. Once school starts, for me, it's like, I mean, I work plenty hard during the summer, but once they go back to school, it's like nose to the grindstone. Let me see as many clients as I can while my kids are at school because I'm not detracting from my family time.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm with you. Real quick,
Yep.
just wanted to check in about accountability. We said we were going to be
Oh, dude.
accountability
That's right.
partners
We
on
are.
Monday, and
We
we
are.
are. We
We
are. What
are.
happened? What happened? So on Monday we did our meeting Monday afternoon, and we decided
Mhm.
to be accountability partners. What happened Monday evening?
Monday evening, I was on a hike, a weighted hike. You were on a hike, and we met each other. I was just finishing, and you were just starting. And there's this big loop in our town that we were walking, and we ran into each other. Quick high five, and then
Accountability.
accountability. Right?
Yep.
Like,
And we
dude,
just went on our ways.
Yep. And now we've been texting each other every
Mhm.
night,
Mhm.
and like, okay, what did you do today? And there's been some roadblocks, honestly, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I haven't had any Dairy Queen this week,
See?
so that's a
See?
win for me, dude.
Dude, it
That's a
is. It
win.
really is. I
That's a
haven't
win.
had any sweets, and that's a win.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
accountability for me doesn't have to mean that I'm working out, which I do want to do,
Yep.
but like also knowing I'm going to have to report to you, it
Yeah.
feels really good to shoot you a text that said, I ate no sweets today.
Right.
Or
Right.
or one night I was like, shit, I haven't done anything physical at all today. I was like, hey, I'm going to do 100 body weight squats. I'll text you when I'm done.
Yep.
And then I just started doing squats.
Yep.
And I probably texted you back 5 minutes later. I just did
Yep.
100 squats, which isn't,
Yep.
that's not groundbreaking, but it's also not nothing.
It's
It's
not
something.
zero.
It's
Yep.
not zero. And it's 100 squats that I wouldn't have done had I not been like, God damn it. Dan's going to
Yep.
think I'm a pussy.
Well, I'll be
Yeah.
honest. I was at the gas station, and I'm a sucker for these like vanilla frosting cookies,
Oh, yeah.
like lemon flavored deals.
Yeah.
And I was in there. The kids each got us something, and then I went to reach for those, and I envisioned your face on the cookies,
Yeah.
calling me a fat ass, and then I was
Oh,
like,
yeah. Seriously.
"Whoop."
Yep. Yep. Big time. And
So
I would too.
yeah,
Yeah.
hey
Just know
lard
it.
ass.
Yeah. Yeah. If you ever want to get like roasted or heckled bad, just call me and tell me
Yep.
what you're thinking about doing, and I'll
Yep.
lay
Hey,
it on
I
thick,
need you to
dude.
make fun of me so I don't eat this Dairy Queen real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
Yep.
All right, Kyle. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of the Man Therapy Podcast. If you guys who are listening find enjoyment at all, or find this episode or these podcasts, the podcast in general, helpful, go to iTunes or Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify, wherever you download this podcast, give us a 5-star review, and that helps this podcast become indexed within those major platforms, and more people can find us. So go do that, comment, leave reviews, all that good stuff. Good vibes, everybody. Kyle, sending good vibes to you and your family, and we
Thanks,
will
bud.
talk to you all next week.